Hey there, Internet friends. Trevor Starkey here with another episode of What I Feel Like Friday. Today I am going to talk about Hamilton, an American musical, because after a couple years of listening to the soundtrack hundreds and hundreds of times, I finally got to see it live in person this week. It's playing here in town at ASU Gamage for this week and the next few weeks to come. I bought tickets 6 months ago or whenever as part of their subscription package because Gamage, weirdly, instead of making this like a single ticket only like special engagement like they usually do with big shows like Wicked and Book of Mormon when they come through, they actually folded Hamilton into their season, which, you know, worked record numbers for them in terms of like bolstering their subscription sales. But it also meant that I got to see it this week for like $60 basically. 70, I think 75 is what's like on the ticket, but I also only had to pay like 30 for all the other 6 shows I've got tickets for this season. I'm also going to see it again in a couple weeks, where I did pay, you know, a little bit more to go get single tickets for it, but I absolutely loved it. It very much like lived up to everything I could have hoped for. Gave me a newfound appreciation of the first song of the show, which effectively introduces almost all the characters that you're going to kind of encounter, and so it very much gave me a chance to immediately kind of say, okay, this is how these characters are going to be different from their, you know, original cast albums counterparts. So this Aaron Burr, for example, is a little bit more tight and timid and really kind of leaning into the whole wait for it mentality, which is, you know, Burr's kind of central conceit. And so I was like, okay, that's a different way than I think of when I think of that character, when I think of what Lamar Odom Jr. brought to the character from what I understand, from what I hear in the musical and stuff. And then you've just got other characters like Washington was a smaller man on this side, but he comes out and just is big and powerful, and you get that, yeah, that is the guy that would run the country. And so, yeah, I could gush for hours about the show. Performances were all great across the board. The music was phenomenal. I already love it because I've, again, listened to it hundreds and hundreds of times. One of the very first things I wrote when I started doing kind of non-video game stuff for Trevor Trove, when I kind of started stepping outside of that sphere, was my review of the Hamilton mixtape and my love of that album. And one of the last real books I've read was the Hamilton kind of anthology, not anthology, that's the wrong word, but basically the making of the musical book that also is the liner notes with Lin-Manuel Miranda's liner notes in there. And I loved getting to see it and just being in, as cheesy as it is, and I used it already in my Facebook and Instagram post on it, being in the room where it happens was just incredible. There are moments that I got to, like, I've always had, you know, ideas in my head of how certain things play out. The sequence from Helpless to Satisfied, getting to see that in person was phenomenal, and they do a great job. If you're familiar with the show, Helpless happens. It's Eliza kind of falling in love with Alexander, and then we rewind at the beginning of Satisfied and hear kind of everything from Angelica's perspective. And I didn't realize how into the staging they went with that, and you basically, like, you see them rewind everything, and then there are just moments that were very kind of standout moments from Helpless that you kind of see in a new light, and they repeat them, and it's very just like flawless staging of that sequence. The King George here was wonderful and delightful and stole the show, you know, whenever he pops on stage for his, you know, 9 minutes total of stage time and whatnot, I think. Yeah, everybody was great. Alexander was great. He was certainly like a taller gentleman than, you know, one of my other friends that was there that night, and I were talking about it tonight after we went and saw another show. We were talking about how it was just like surreal seeing him as like a larger, not larger, but a taller man when we think of like Lin-Manuel Miranda in that role. I'm super rambling, but yeah, it was just ton of fun, great performances. very like different performances than what I was, than what I've heard in my head and on the album for the last year and a half, but still great across the board. Everybody really like knocked it out of the park, and it was just a ton of fun. Such a great staging, so great to see it live. I teared up probably half a dozen times watching the show. Sometimes out of like the emotion of the scenes, but then other times just because I was realizing that I don't know if I will ever see something as just expertly crafted and put together in such an artistic endeavor in my life again. Realizing that this is a once in a generation kind of show, and getting to see it live is breathtaking, and had me tearing up, as I said, multiple times throughout the performance. So I can't wait to go see it again. I'm entering the lottery every day on the hopes that I'll get to go see it yet again with super cheap tickets. And yeah, it's just if you have the chance, if you are so inclined to drop hundreds of dollars on the ticket, or if it comes to your town anytime in the near future, definitely check it out if you can. It is certainly an incredible piece of theater, and I am so blessed that I got to experience it. So those are my thoughts on Hamilton, specifically the production here in Tempe for the next few weeks. Let me know what you think of the musical in general, if you've listened to it or if you have any thoughts on it in the comments below. As always, I've been your host, Trevor Starkey from TrevorTrove.com. You can follow me at SnarkyStarkey on Twitter. And until next time, from here at the Trove, treasure your friends.